is an amount that we've got budgeted for 2011. It's not this year's snow and ice deficit. Retirements I've already addressed. General liability insurance is level funded. Keep in mind that this year we did cash in a number of our one-time credits, experience credits and such. We will not have those available for next year, so what I've done is I've level funded that. And you'll note that for fiscal year 2011, we're showing a small overlay deficit that relates to abatements that have been granted in prior years by the Board of Assessors, for which there was not a sufficient amount that was remained in the overlay. So we'll have to address that going forward on the tax rate recap. Beyond that, the remaining page deals with the detail for employee benefits. I think the big number is the health insurance, and we all know about that. Yes?
A couple of questions. Number 13 with the services director, the $12,000, is that, did I understand that to be a fill-in for the remainder of this year?
No, it's the amount that's necessary for fully funding the position beginning on July 1st.
Okay.
So we do have $35,000 available for this year to get us through to the end of June.
Right, that's what I thought, okay.
And so it's 35 plus the $12,277 represents the total amount for next year.
So that would be salary with benefits of $47,277?
Benefits are somewhere else.
Salary benefits would not be included in that number.
That's just salary.
It's just salary,
Correct.
okay.
The benefits are in the
Okay.
benefits portion of the.
They're under the employee benefits, which are lumped on the
Okay.
third page of the blue sheet.
Okay. And on the health insurance, is it open for discussion, or is it not open for public discussion on how we're going to save the 2%, get down to 2%, or save $411,000?
Talk about it as much as you
I
want.
mean, how, at this moment, I'm not aware of how we're getting down to that. Are we
The
increasing
same
co-pays?
way we did last year.
Are we increasing co-pays and,
We're hopeful.
I mean, is that the intent?
Oh,
I guess I don't
you're wondering
recall-
what
Plan
the
design.
program,
Yeah, I
the
don't
plan
recall
design.
seeing it, yeah, I don't recall seeing it, to be honest with you. If I got it, then I apologize, but I
No,
don't recall
the
seeing it.
plan design hasn't been discussed at the board meeting.
And if it's not prepared to be discussed now, okay, but I just want to make sure I'm on the same page as everybody else, that,
The plan design changes representative of a tiered program. And I know I've had this discussion, and it's probably not with the board in a meeting, but it would be a tiered program that's offered through Blue Cross Blue Shield. There'd be 3 tiers. And depending upon where your hospital or your physician falls into that tier, there's a separate out-of-pocket charge that's associated with that. So that's one of the major changes that's associated with the plan. Most of the employees would either have a co-payment equal to what they're paying now or less. However, there are some that would fall into the higher tier and they would have an additional co-payment. The other substantive pieces of the health insurance plan are to increase the out-of-pocket payment for hospital admissions and for day surgery. Presently, the insurance plan does not have any out-of-pocket payment for either hospital admissions or for day surgery. My recollection, it was $250 per hospital admission to a maximum cap of $1,000, and that the day surgery out-of-pocket expense would be $100 per admission. So those are the major pieces that bring us from a plan that comes in at 11.1% versus a plan that comes in with 2%, just over 2%. And there's some additional elements that I'd have to go back and catch up on, but that's just off the top of my head.
thank you.
But we're not there yet.
No, I
No,
understand that,
The
I
budget
understand,
has the 11% increase in it.
Right,
but
This
yes,
will be
Yeah.
additional savings or additional
Right,
revenue we would
okay.
have.
right. Anything else you wanna go over, Greg, on that? Any questions from
Craig, on
anybody? Sean?
item 8, my notes reflect that $10,000 was for an extension of the service contract, not for replacement of PCs. Is that correct?
Yeah, and I changed it because originally when he came in, he wanted to establish service contracts on equipment that was relatively low cost to replace. It was my feeling in conversations that money is best spent simply just replacing, have a regular replacement process become part of the small capital program going forward, rather than spending money on an expensive service contract. So that's what I'm suggesting, is we just periodically replace systems as they become outdated.
I had a problem with doing what he had suggested doing. He was gonna extend the warranty on
PCs are.
PCs beyond 3 years. And, you know, those that were gonna fall off the cliff, I suggested if he had 2, he could probably make 1, and then replace them with some equipment, and we'd be better off. We'd be ahead of the game.
On item 7, the tax title increase,
Yes,
thought, oh, my notes reflected, but it could be wrong, that difference was $3,000.
she had it broken up in both the treasurer's budget and the collector's budget. And what I did was, there was a shortfall in each budget. So what I did was I added up the total shortfall and I consolidated it all into the collector's budget.
Thank you.
And that's something we really wanna stay on top of to keep the collections up,
absolutely.
so.
Yeah, it's worthwhile, it pays for it, so. And then some.
The library was just under the $7,000 to keep us in the certification. So, on the 122,000 for municipal employees, that's 5 town employees, not the school, right?
Right. And that's the buyback of the sick leave and vacation leave.
Now, this is anticipated retirements, not formally made, right? They're not, we don't have a requirement to let us know in advance.
No, we don't, but we're pretty good in terms of keeping our ear open and knowing, having some knowledge of what those retirements might be.
I guess my concern is more on are there more lingering? You know, with some of these changes proposed in the legislature is driving that, isn't it? Or some of it?
Possible. I mean, you know, it's always possible, because I think the legislature had something in there about an early retirement bill.
Right.
The version that I saw of the early retirement bill was, if you want to take it, you have to forego your buybacks. Now, I saw that, I have no idea whether that language survives or whether it will survive.
Wasn't that a local option too?
It was.
So,
Was that all as part of the game associated with the overall capping of the retirement?
I think it was part of the governor's budget proposal that got submitted back in January, was that he had that as part of his plan, and I admit I haven't heard anything of it since then.
No, I haven't either, that's why I asked. Joe?
On the retirement board in Reading, we haven't heard any more either. There's been no talk about it at all.
No, I'm thinking is if they're gonna put a cap on retirements, right, then a lot of people were jumping out the door. Then I'm seeing this counter thing, well, now there's a rule, if you jump out the door, you can't collect your buybacks. You know, it's sort of a way of keeping everybody in the program.
No, what it does is it gives the opportunity for some people to get out 2 or 3 years earlier, and forego the buybacks, so that it would take them a longer
Get
period of
out
time.
and be on retirement.
Get out and be on retirement with no buybacks at an earlier age, at 2 years, say, approximately 2 years sooner,
Mhm.
rather than waiting to get your buybacks and go.
So I don't know,
It'd be
what kind of economic,
Well, and again, depending upon what your buyback
sense does
amounts
that
are,
make?
you know, how many years of retirement it was gonna take to get that back.
No, I'm talking about in terms of us, so now we have someone collecting retirement 2 years earlier, right?
But at a
And
lower,
we're-
but at a lower rate than they would be 2 years from now, and you wouldn't have the buyback costs. So the initial hit would actually be less. Maybe a
Yeah,
little
but
sooner,
over the
but
long
less.
haul, we're paying out, now we're paying the salary of a new person for 2 years, and we're paying retirement.
Theoretically at a lower rate. Yeah, theoretically at a lower rate, hiring someone at a lower rate than someone who's going out. And you're having someone going out at a lower rate, so the retirement benefit, while you're paying it 2 years longer, is at a smaller amount.
Would that
Yeah, those
retirement?
buybacks will probably be less than salaries for the new person coming in, so it'd probably be a loss for the town.
Depending upon the position of the individual there, not necessarily.
I don't know, it just
Would
seems.
that
that-
retirement be at a full level?
From a cash flow, it's
If
better.
they, if
It's
they
cash flow.
Yeah,
2 years sooner, do they get it as if they, dollar-wise, as if they retired at the normal age?
You mean the buybacks?
No, not the buybacks. If they're gonna forego the buybacks, okay,
Okay.
they can retire now. Let's
Right.
say they're, well, I don't know what the retirement age is anymore. Say they're 60 years old,
Mhm.
and the retirement age is 62 and a half, okay? If they retire at 60, will they get the 2.5 rate without the buybacks?
Pretty much. Basically, what it does is it gets people, state, county, municipal employees get to max out at a certain percentage of their, so say it's 80%.
Right.
So, the only one who's gonna take advantage of an early retirement incentive package is someone who's going to be able to get closer to that maximum
Right.
amount sooner. You know,
Sooner,
rather than
right.
working 4 years, 5 years to get there, you go out now,
Uh-huh.
77%.
Okay.
Yeah, rather than, if they left today, they'd be out at 72%, they can now go out at 77 or 80%.
short of cash flow, I
But
think
it-
that's
but
a
it's-
bad deal.
But it's, from a cash flow standpoint, it's to the town's advantage. Over the long haul, it might cost you a little bit more. But the buyback, from a cash flow standpoint, it's much better during crunch years.
The only item I have to add is, I think it was done back in 2004, maybe, the last time.
Yeah.
The town had the ability to pick and choose the number and positions, although there may be language that says if, now you have to pick people based upon their tenure or their service. So there may be, in the past, the town had freedom to kind of pick and choose to achieve savings. I think if there's, say the town has a few positions, the person with more seniority would be given the opportunity to leave earlier. There are these things, but again, we don't know whether it's gonna happen or not. But I wanna make sure that for the budgeting standpoint, that we include an amount in there that we feel is accurate based upon what we know as of today. Some, July 1 could come along and law could pass and we could have 6 more people that wanna leave service.
Mhm.
Right now, we don't anticipate that.
No, I saw in the detail,
Sure.
meals tax anticipated at $100,000.
Right,
Have we had any receipts yet?
0.
When does that get
I think it's just,
deposited?
I think
How's that gonna work?
It's quarterly,
Quarterly.
wasn't it? So we should be, isn't it coming in as an offset to the charge or something?
my understanding is a quarterly distribution. Haven't seen anything. The amount, if you look at that amount, we have budgeted 100,000. We have no way of knowing whether that number will hold up, but what we do know is that the Department of Revenue establishes a cap number for us, and the cap number for budgeting purposes is about 106,000. So we're pretty close to the maximum, but that's our wiggle room, is between 100,000 and 106,000.
I thought originally we were talking about 100 based on, this was 2007 revenues.
We have
It's gonna be
50,
120.
we have 50 in this 6-month cycle.
Right, but it's gonna be 120,000. We were talking about discussing whether to adopt it or not. It was $120,000 based on 2007 revenues collected by the Commonwealth, the form of meals tax based on what was reported, right?
Yeah, my thinking is that if it's 80 or it's 120, it isn't gonna make much difference.
I think at one time when we were talking about the meals tax number, it was much larger. And over a period of time, the state shrank the number down and shrank the number down.